Hey there, kids. My name's Bill, and welcome to Crazy Grandad, the place where we can do some fun stuff, do some dumb stuff, and maybe even learn something along the way. Today, on this lovely, hot Adelaide summer day, I am going to be casting some silicone. This is the second attempt at this particular job. The reason it failed was because of different products that I used beforehand. It was a TikTok short that I did, but we'll get into that afterwards. Silicone casting. It's some people get this confused with silicone molding. They're actually two different things. All right. What I'm doing is I'm actually making something out of silicone, whereas with silicone molding, a lot of people will use that to make a silicone mold for something else. And that's usually your liquid silicone that you buy that you would pour into a mold and it goes off. What I'm using here is your stock standard silicone that you get from the hardware shop. So it will just turn into a solid silicone product. Now, basically a little bit of background, what I'm doing, I'm actually making a couple of small plugs. They're only tiny. These are the molds here. The plugs that I'm looking to replicate are very similar to this, which are for a project that I'm working on at the moment. These are, I tried these first. These are printed, 3D printed out of flexible TPU. But look, they're good. They do the job, but they need to be able to withstand just the tiniest little bit of pressure behind them. And due to the layer lines in them and stuff like that, they do weep. You can see here, I've got one here. I put a little bit of Teflon tape on to try and seal it up. It just didn't do the job. So, silicone it is. So I've done quite a bit of silicone casting in the past. That said, when I had my first attempt at this, I'm not going to say I broke the cardinal rule. I missed something that I should have picked straight away. Now, silicone, pure silicone, which is what you should use, 100% pure silicone. You can get it at your hardware shop. You know, it comes in a cartridge. It's what you use for sealing up your bathroom or your roof or whatever, like stuff like that. This is just clear bathroom silicone, but this stuff is 100%. The stuff that I got beforehand was not. Now, the difference is all the additives that are in the other stuff. Now, when I was using the other stuff, what I should have picked up was the smell. Now, that's probably going to sound a little bit weird, but the thing is, with a tube of 100% silicone, when you open it, it should actually have quite a, what's the word? Stench, shall we say. Silicone has an acetic acid smell to it, which more commonly known as would smell like vinegar. Okay, the stuff that I used beforehand, opened up the tube, couldn't smell anything, didn't pay any attention to it, job was a complete flop. Never mind, moving on. So let's walk through what we've got here. We're gonna do this properly this time. So obviously we've got our tube of 100% silicone. Obviously we need to weigh it out. I'm going to sort of go around a bit of a circle here. We've got the good old kitchen scales, which the wife doesn't know I'm using, but I won't tell if you don't tell. I've just got a cup that I can mix it up in, all right, and weigh it obviously. As we move around, we've got our molds. Now, these molds, I've actually remanufactured these. I've reprinted these. These, I've got a slightly different shape. The last molds that I tried, I don't know if I've got one nearby. I do actually, and you know what? It's still got the train wreck of the old. Look at that. Look at that. That's just disgusting. It's horrible. Went completely pear-shaped. And this hasn't completely, this stuff here, it hasn't gone off. It's just turned into like goo. It's just shocking. So, but these two molds, you can sort of see the depth of that one. This one's a lot deeper. So, hang on, there we go, about like that. So I'm actually shooting for a deeper plug, all right, because reasons I'll show you afterwards. There's three little holes in these, and then the tops that go on, which will make up the top half of the plug. All right, we got 3 little register pins, which is nothing special. It's just 3 little bits of just TIG filler wire, welding filler wire, so they can locate on there and just keep it all nice and straight and concentric. So from there, we move on to this stuff. Now, this is what we're going to use as our mold release. Okay, it is petroleum jelly. Some people might say Vaseline, but it's all the same sort of stuff. So what we basically do is we get into the mold with a small brush and just go around. I've done these beforehand just in the interests of, not taking forever. So I've pre-coated these and both the tops as well. So these are all ready to go. So that petroleum jelly will just allow you to obviously get your casting out of the mold without it literally being silicone to the mold. So that's that taken care of. Just for reference, I've got a thermometer readout and a, please excuse the siren. Sounds like the authorities are after me again. What's new? We have the current ambient temperature inside. As I said, it's a hot day today. I've got the air conditioning on, but I've turned it down a bit to sort of just keep the noise down. So we're about 26.5 degrees centigrade in here at the moment, and 49 degrees relative humidity. Okay, where this is, humidity is not the end of the world, but when you're doing this kind of a job, realistically, while you're actually casting, while you're doing all of this process, if you can keep the temperature down as much as you can and keep the humidity up-ish, and this is probably about ideal, 50% sort of thing, that's ideal. And that's purely for work time with the molds, all right? If it's really, really warm and the humidity's right down, that's going to cut back on the amount of time, your work time that you've got to get your silicone in those molds and get them clammed up. Okay, as it is, sort of once you start getting it mixed up, you're on the clock anyway, so you just got to just keep moving. All right, moving right around here, we have a couple of things. We have a little shot glass. We have a bottle of blue food colouring. Why have I used blue? Because it's the only colour I could find in the cupboard, that's why. And a bottle of glycerin. All right, glycerin is, it's basically, I think you can use it for like dried out skin and stuff like that. It gets used for a million things. You can get it in your, down the aisle in your supermarket. You can get it at the chemist. It's nothing special, but it does play a vital role in basically curing your silicone. What it does is the glycerin, as far as I understand, it draws the moisture out of the silicone. It's really good at absorbing moisture. So because you've got something that's in an enclosed mold and not exposed to air, it helps just get the moisture out of the silicone so that it can go off. All right. And the blue colouring is just food colouring, but it says it obviously just makes it look a bit nicer so it's coloured. Why not? Anyone would think blue was my favourite colour, but I also have another purpose for it, and I'll explain that in a moment. Apart from that, we just have a little syringe just for measuring this stuff out, how much stuff we're going to mix these two in that shot glass. Okay, how we mix it in there is not the end of the world, but how it gets measured out into here is absolutely vital. All right. Apart from that, we just have a couple of little, toothpick, skewer, swizzle stick things. All right, they're purely just for mixing and stuff like that. And then we have a little sort of a wooden spatula thingo, and that's just for filling our molds up. Okay. Aside from that, we've got the stock standard, standby cup of coffee, and a drop forged 10-inch shifter. And basically the reason for the shifter is that somewhere in this room there is a fly, and when I see him, look out. So if you see him, let me know. Okay, so let's get this happening. So we've got our molds already prepped. They've got the They've got the, oh, one thing I should mention as well. One thing I do, quick word, just PPE. If anyone's doing this, some people are all over PPE. I admittedly am a little bit slack. Okay. Realistically, there's nothing toxic here that you're working with. Okay. So there's nothing dangerous that you're going to get on your hands. When I'm doing this, I don't get along well wearing like nitrile gloves and stuff like that. Obviously, I would say to anyone else, and I'm no angel, maybe put safety glasses on. I'm pretty lucky. I'm lucky enough to be in a safety squint area, so I'm covered. One thing I do though, because I'm using my bare hands, I should have probably mentioned before, just down here, I always keep, whenever I'm doing this, I just keep a damp cloth handy. Now, it seems stupid, and there's no real there's no real science behind it, but I've always found when I'm doing this, if I just keep my hands just mildly damp from a damp cloth, any silicone that you get on you, it doesn't seem to stick to you. All right. If you do it with dry hands, you get silicone on you, and then you're picking it off like for it, and it's a pain in the backside. So, but if damp cloth, just as you do here and there, as you're doing it, just keep wiping your hands off. Damp cloths also, if you do get silicone on you, it's actually about the best thing to get it off with. So, all right, so let's move on. Let's get this happening. I'll just get the shifter out of the way because I haven't seen that fly for a while. First thing we're going to do is we are going to mix up our glycerin. All right. So you don't need much. The mixture of glycerin to silicone, and I'm going to stay in metric here because I don't know how it all goes in pounds and ounces and leagues and furlongs and whatnot. 8 grams of silicone, or every 8 grams of silicone, you want 1 drop of glycerin. Okay. And what I've found in the past, because you're trying to get moisture out of it, and because this stuff is basically water-based, I generally, for every drop of food colouring I put in, I put 1 extra drop of the mix in the casting, if that makes any sense. Hopefully that will. Right. So we'll get those mixed together. Maybe a couple of, so I'm just going to put 2 drops of food colouring in there, and there's about probably the equivalent of, I don't know, maybe 5 mils, say a teaspoon of the good old glycerin. So we'll get that mixed up, and you want to mix it in fairly thoroughly. They don't sort of mix in straight away. So while I'm doing that, so basically when you're silicone casting, and also, I suppose, for the matter of that, making silicone molds, it's a really good material to work with. A couple of your attributes are obviously it's flexible. Once it's dry, especially if you're making molds, you can make molds that can be sort of, because it's so bendy, you can sort of peel it off of things, off of your blank. Makes life a lot easier. Being that it's silicone, once it's set, once it's gone off, it's pretty much non-reactive. So it's not going to melt, it's not going to dissolve or whatever, and pretty much nothing's going to stick to it. Obviously, once you've made a mold or whatever, probably more for molding's sake, is the repeatability. You've made a mold, so you've then got the ability then to whatever you're making. And anyone who does this all the time, like makes like resin stuff and bits and pieces of silicone molds, they've probably got molds that they use over and over and over again. And another good thing with silicone is the temperature resistance. It doesn't melt. It as far as I know, unless you expose it to like the temperature of the sun, it doesn't really catch fire. It's like you get your silicone, your oven mats that you put on your bench top for hot pots and stuff like that. It's pretty much heat resistant, good insulator. So yeah, it's all right. So we got that stuff mixed up there. That's good to go. Now, as far as the mixture goes, yeah, you want to be bang on. Hang on, I'm just gonna. Bloody cat, seriously, cat hair. I've got 7 cats, and it just there's just always, there's never not cat hair. Your mixture is pretty important, all right? As I said before, we're using 100% silicone this time. All right, we're just going to, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this a quick pump just to get some fresh stuff out. Bear with me for a moment. Sorry about that. There we go. You always get that little bit of a, shall we call it a lug of gone off stuff. Little bit on the fingies, we'll get rid of that. All right, so what we're looking to do today, I'm going to measure out probably about 16 grams, just so I'm even Stevens with my 8 gram thing, all right? That brings me to rule number 2. Rule number 2, I think I was at 2. Always mix up more silicone than you need. There is absolutely nothing worse than getting halfway through what you're doing and running out of material, because that just, the whole process is ruined and you've pretty much got to start again. So I'm going to go with 16 grams today when the scales eventually tear out. There we go. Let's see, there we go. Make a nice little clear dog turd in the middle. Third in, a little bit more. Come on. 15, so look at that, bang on, 16. Anyone think I've done this before? Okay, so that's sorted. Okay, so before we get too far into it, once I start mixing that in there, as I said, then we're on the clock. I can't stop. I've got to just keep going. So I'll try and explain as I go. So obviously right now, this isn't smell-o-vision, so you can't smell what I'm smelling, but there is a reasonably strong, well, not heap strong, but there is a smell of acetic acid, or, you know, like vinegar smell, basically. All right, so we have 16 grams of silicone. We would typically add 2 drops of glycerin to that, but I've got a couple of drops of food colouring in there, so I'm going to go a little bit more. I'm going to go 3, or if I'm feeling really dangerous, which I often am, maybe 4 drops. Basically, the more you put in, the shorter your work time becomes. So let's kick off. 1, 2, 3, and I always spread them around. See, I'm not just tipping them on one on top of the other. You know what? Oh, bugger it. Let's live dangerously. Now, all right, that's that sorted. Look at me with being responsible with my bit of paper towel. Now, the reason I mix the food colouring with the glycerin prior to putting in the silicone is it makes for a good visual indicator. So as you're mixing up your silicone around the edges and stuff like that, I don't know how well you can see, but you'll see around the edges it's still clear. It's not blue. So the food colouring is basically letting me know, let's get these scales out of the road. The food colouring is effectively letting me know that where I have and have not mixed the silicone. The other thing you notice is that when it went in, it was reasonably sort of glossy and sort of clear, and now it's getting sort of like almost like a milky white, you know, like a really light blue milky colour. And that's obviously because as we're doing this, we're pulling air into there as well. So, and that's not the end of the world. It's sort of like pulling taffy. You know, it gets some air in there. If anything, that just, yes, it reduces your work time, but it also obviously helps it cure. If you're looking for a nice crystal clear casting, that's when you've got to start involving things like vacuum chambers and blah, blah, blah to get the air out of it. I don't have that kind of technology here because I'm in Australia. So we're just going to do it this way and basically cross our fingers. All right, that's ready to rock. So I figure we've got about, maybe 10 minutes. All right, let's get these two ready to rock and roll first. Now, with what I'm doing here, the bottom of the mould is the most important. The top of the mould is secondary to my needs. So, obviously the main aim of the game is get the bottom of the mould spot on. And when I say spot on, let me just, you know what, I'm going to just hold on to your hats, guys. I'm zooming in. Ready? There we go. This mould, from the, as you saw from the cross section, it goes right down, and it's got like a little lip right down in the bottom. So I am going to poke this stuff right down in there. And this is where things can get tricky, because it's not just going to go in there and stick, because the petroleum jelly doesn't want to stick to it. Now, as handy as that is later on when you go to open up the mould, it can make life a little bit awkward in the now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this like a little cupcake. We are going to put a nice little, I don't know, I'll try and tip this over without spilling it. Ready? Yep, there we go. Like a nice little thingy on top. So then what I'm going to do is basically take that, point that straight into the middle of the top of the mould, and then squish it down. So the plan is that that will squish out to the edge of the top. Now then what I want to see is I want to see like a little skirt of silicone come all the way out, all the way around the edge. Doesn't matter how much. As I said, better too much than too little. This, I love doing this. This is so satisfying. Ready? There we go. You know, that nice little skirt, that little squishy, all the way around the edge. Like that. So that'll all get trimmed off afterwards when it's all dried and cured and what have you. Now I could clamp these. I did with the last lot. I'm just having a quick look, just seeing if it's just pushing back at all. I don't think it is. It just means that that little skirt in between these two halves is just going to be a bit thicker. You know what? I think I'm just going to leave it. It'll be all right. She'll be right. She'll be right. All right, next one. Clock's ticking. And even now you can't really tell, but this second lot here actually feels a little bit stiffer than the first lot did that went in. So you don't mix it up and then just go and put the kettle on or something like, you know. You got to get on it. As you may know, am famous for basically waffling shit while I'm doing things. So sometimes I get a little bit carried away with what I'm saying and not so much with what I'm doing. If that's a problem with anybody, I apologise. Alright, make a nice little, there you go. Ready. They're kind of like beautiful little, almost like little cupcakes. Okay. Ready? All the way around the edge. It doesn't look like it's coming out, but it is. There we go. Lovely. Right, so we've got a little bit left over, but as I said, you're better to have a few grams too much than half a gram not enough, because, mate, yeah, it doesn't bear thinking about. So, yeah, I don't know, if you've got a leak in the bathroom or something like that, quickly race in there and in the shower, whatever, it's up to you, you know, if you don't want to waste it. So we can get that out of the road. All right, so the glycerin and the food colouring, whatever you've got left over, glycerin's completely non-toxic. Hang on a minute, what's going on here? There we go. the glycerin and the food colouring, they're completely non-toxic or anything like that. There is no problem with tipping this down the sink if you want. The inside of your drain pipes might go blue for a little while. Whoopie chook. All right, so they're done. They are ready to rock and roll. What I might do, I haven't really properly prepared myself, but I can give you a bit of a look. Anyone who's seen any of my TikTok posts will probably already know what's going on. Get those two out of the way before I stick myself to them. Make a bit of room here. You can go up there, and definitely you. There's a story between me and food colouring. Like every time we get in the same room, bad things happen. All right, so basically, the reason I'm making these, coffee's cold. Oh boy, I have here, and it's only a prototype, so don't judge me. All right, this little unit here, or the top that you can see, is a little air conditioner that I'm building. It's like a little project I'm working on at the moment, evaporative. Basically designed for camping. People that are going away in small tents, swags, that kind of thing. More for sort of keeping cool during the night. A lot of the time, you know, if you're staying in a swag, camping in a swag or whatever, you can often find, if you're in a hot area, mate, you go to get into bed at night and it's just stinking hot. So this is what I'm working on. It's just a little air conditioner. We have I won't go too far into it, a little water sump in the bottom, and then inside there, little water pump in the bottom that picks it up. It has 3 little evaporative pads on the back and on the sides, which are my own secret herbs and spices, and then fan on the front. So yeah, very, very simple. And I've been doing a lot of testing with it and whatnot. It's very low amp draw, reasonably quiet. But yeah, that's the aim of the game. Something that someone could, you know, take camping with them and basically plug into their, you know, their 4-wheel drive or whatever without needing a generator or whatever. So now this has on the back a little drain plug, which can also be used as a fill plug, I guess. And to that end, this plug fits beautifully. So I printed 4 of these. That's not too bad because it's not under any pressure. This, on the other hand, if I just, hang on, let's see if we can just target in on this one. In the middle, right there, there's a hole, right? And that hole goes straight down through the guts to where the pump is. This bit up here, I don't know how well you can see, but there's a little hole there, a little hole there, and a little hole there. So they basically, those galleries carry water out to my pads. Let's so water comes up from the pump, out of there, out of the pads, does its air conditioning thing. Big problem. The pump I designed myself and 3D printed and everything. I must have done a much better job than I thought I did because the pressure is such that this is a reasonably tight fit in here, these plugs. And even being TPU, like I shove that in there as hard as I can. And even with a bit of Teflon tape on there, and the pressure is such that I'm still getting water weeping out around the top. So hence the idea behind the silicone molds, so that I can put that in, and the shape of the plug is such that hopefully the water pressure inside the plug will actually push out on the bottom of it and help to seal itself. That's the plan. We'll see what happens. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically the whole reason for it's purely just for testing. This is only a prototype, as you can see, because of all the lovely colours it's made from. Yeah, it's this is all purely testing, research and development, and blah blah blah. So yeah, but yeah, there we go. So let's get that out of the road. So I hope that. Oh, what is that? Oh no, it's just water. I hope that today you may have learned something. If not, you've killed half an hour. Either way, we've had a chat, we've sat down, caught up. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you to my little army of subscribers that's gradually getting bigger. And I suppose I will see you in the next one. Take it easy.